attend, but it's a good time. Sorry, go ahead.
All right, good evening, everybody. Here we are. This is the presentation of the superintendent's recommended budget based on all of the assessment information we have at the time. I'm going to kind of breeze through this a little quickly. As we've been through this once before, we're going to look at revenue summary, foundation day, proposed budget, tax levy impacts, our three-part budget, capital budget, and our budget vote, which is coming up in just a few weeks. Here's an overall look at the source of funds for the district. Next year, we are recommending to appropriate $1.5 million worth of fund balance, the balance of the budget, as well as a transfer from debt service of $125,000. This is part of our long-range financial plan that we present on every year. State aid next year at this time is expected to be almost 54 million. I'm sorry. And as I always say, Valley Central, like all other districts in this area, are funded predominantly by the tax levy, and tax levy next year, if approved by the voters, would be $68.9 million. On a percentage basis, our tax levy is 53% of our budget, state aid 42%, and all other revenue is 5%. Here is all of our revenue for the year. You can see the biggest increase would be in the tax levy, an increase of $2 million, which, and I will show you later, will be below the tax cap again. So the proposed budget includes, it's very high level, it maintains all positions that have been added over the last few years for social emotional support and needs. That would be a student assistance counselor, a social emotional specialist. We've added a PE mental health position, director of safety and security, and behavioral interventional specialist at the middle school and high school. Not to mention here, I talked about at the last meeting, all of the additional security that we have in place now. It continues leadership development and consultants as needed for implementation of the strategic plan. As we mentioned, that process is ongoing. Data teams and behavioral management. The budget would add a girls wrestling team. The budget also does include some fiscally responsible reductions. To manage taxpayer impact, the way that we were able to get the recommended tax levy to be below 3% is to really take a good look at the positions that we currently have and see, as there are vacancies or chances to not fill positions through attrition, can we do that? So there will be a small amount of reduction in staff through addition and some reallocation of existing staff where applicable to fill some vacancies and some new needs. A new need, for example, could possibly be a new teacher at East Boldenham Elementary School to address class size. And unfortunately, we will have to discontinue district paid field trips. This was something that was added into the budget, I believe, 2 years ago, when we did receive a significant increase in state aid. We have to make smart decisions, and in order to get our budget balanced, tax levy of 3%, this would be something we have to do next year. Fast budget facts. Proposed tax levy increase to the voters, 2.99%. Our proposed budget to budget increase, 2.74%. That brings us to a proposed 24-25 budget of $129,300,000. Here, as I mentioned, the recommended tax increase is below the tax levy limit. On the left-hand side, you can see our tax cap is 5.66%. However, the recommended budget includes a proposed tax levy increase of 2.99%. So we will be under the tax cap. This, I believe, will be our 3rd year in a row under the tax cap. Last year, it was, well, back to 22-23, our tax cap was 4.44%, and the voters approved the tax levy increase of 1.76. In 23-24, our tax cap was 6.33, and our voters approved a 0.92% tax levy increase. And this year, our tax cap is 5.66, and recommended budget, as I mentioned, is 2.99%.
I have a question about that.
Sure.
So I know everyone wants to keep the taxes low and percentage low. Are we putting ourselves in a bad position by not getting closer to that cap, like looking towards the future? Or are we kind of a sweet spot?
I believe we're kind of in a sweet spot. Ideally, as you know, when districts leave money on the table, and this is something that our fiscal advisor has spoken to us about, when you leave money on the table, it's very, very difficult However, you also have to be cognizant of the will of the community to support those budgets.
Right. So that percentage is kind of not putting us in a precarious position with leaving money on the table, but keeping it as low as we can.
Yes.
Okay.
We believe that's a solid recommendation. We will leave revenue on the table for years to come. Like we will never be able to call that.
Okay, thank you.
However, I don't want to speak on behalf of other districts to their specific numbers because I don't think they've all announced them publicly, but we believe we'll be in the same ballpark as some other districts around us as far as tax levy increases. I don't know specifically everybody's number, but I think most districts are a little hesitant to go with that 3% number unless there's a valid reason to do so. I think it's just wise to kind of take a look at it each year, carefully look at your positions that you have through attrition rather than laying off. But the times are changing. We've been through COVID, the grants are running out. The state has made districts whole on state aid over the last 2 years. Like last year, our budget increased over 7%, and we were able to go out of a tax levy of under 1%. Right, so you could argue that probably should have been the year we took a little bit of a higher step forward.
I just want to make sure we're looking at this year, obviously, but also how it impacts us going forward, because that's huge.
Yeah.
And not many people follow that necessarily.
Yeah, it certainly will. But that's why we bring our fiscal advisors in and present us with the 5-year plan. And there are always those numbers out there 4 or 5 years that show us in the red. We just have to be cautious and make sure we're making good decisions. So this is simply put, as everybody is familiar with, this puts the impact on a scale that's hopefully easy to understand. So this, at a 2.99%, what would be the impact to taxpayers? So if we start with the middle column, this would be just a homeowner with STAR, and the first line is a house with a full value, not assessed value, but full value of $200,000. So the estimated monthly impact would be $6.42 for 77 for the year, $300,000, $10.17 per month, $122 for the year, and a $400,000 full value house, $13.92 per month, $167 for the year. Going to the left, for a senior with STAR, what would that impact be? Let's just look at the middle row there, $300,000 house, full value, $8.17 a month, $98 for the year. If you look back at some previous years when this has been estimated, these numbers are lower than that. However, the tax levy impact is slightly higher. There's many different factors that go into this. I could put Jackie on the spot, which I pay for it tomorrow morning, so we're not going to do that. If you do look back at the past budget newsletters, this is lower than some of the previous ones. Our budget summary is going forward to 24-25. As you know, we have to present the budget in plain language in 3 parts. The capital component next year, $12.9 million. The administrative component at $11.1 million, and the program component, which is by far the largest component of our budget, $105,239,000. This puts those 3 parts on the pie chart. Program component 81%, capital 10%, and administrative at 9%. The next few slides breaks our budget down into that plain language format. This is more of the line by line, which gives some more detail that will be available for all the taxpayers in the budget booklets that will be available, as well as on our district website. We've been through this at the last meeting, so unless there's any questions, I'm going to kind of skip through it. If there's anything that sticks out, please don't hesitate to ask. The first slide was obviously capital, and now we have a few slides for administrative components.
Right, one question, like throughout, there's a lot of repetition, right? So like, just say supplies. It's throughout. Some go up, some go down, some stay the same. Like, are we counting pencils, or like, how are we deciding?
Paper clips.
Ideally, to count pencils and paper clips, sure, it would be great.
No, I mean, how are we deciding one goes up by 400 and another one comes down by 300?
So the way that we allocate our supplies out for a lot of the building supplies, we try to do a per pupil allocation to make it fair for everybody. So we will take a look at enrollment reports on Beds Day, which is in October, and make an allocation now so it's fair for everybody. Then comes into play certain factors that we look at. We have to look at historical trends. Is a department or is a particular budget code enough, or is it too much? There may be certain special items that are being requested that we will build in. But for things like supplies, and I know we talked about this, I remember a number of years ago, you asked us to reduce supplies a little bit. We don't, we simply do not zero-based budget for supplies. Budget codes like buildings grounds, for example. So Brian, when we have our budget meetings with Brian, he will make a recommendation on an amount for each individual buildings. To be fully honest, we took a big step last year. I think we're taking another step this year, but we're just simply not able to give him his full request. So then we get to like this time of year, we just had a conversation with Brian. He says I'm broke. He said I have no supplies left. And you look at his status reports. So this time of year, we kind of have a good idea. If you look at the budget overall, where we can pull some monies from to help them out. So, you know, for example, high school may have not spent all their art supplies, things like that. We'll transfer them on. But supplies, no, we do not have zero-based budget or supplies. However, we do zero-based budget just on all of our salary lines. Program component, this is the largest component of our district. As I said, as you see, there's some lines here that are negative. A lot of these special ed, as you know, this is an area where we are seeing a significant increase. Right here, the special education tuition line going up $551,000. This has also impacted us this year. We've had to make a number of budget transfers into those budget codes as things have changed throughout the year that we did not anticipate. I believe, off the top of my head, more than 10 one-on-one pairs have been added this year due to IEP mandates. Those are things that we just simply cannot plan for at the beginning of the school year. So that is one area that has fluctuated honestly over the last couple of years, but it is going up next year. Lowest occupational education line there, that would be our CTEC. Summer school this year will be a limited summer school program versus what we've had the last 2 years funded by the grant. With transportation, we're just simply not able to afford continuing that in the same fashion. Here under pupil personnel services, so you'll see the guidance counts or salary lines that's being reduced there. That would be potentially one of the positions that we were proposing to reallocate staff rather than fill the position. This is one of those attrition positions. Transportation, from the last budget presentation to this one, we did have to reallocate some funds over here to address after the April 1st deadline, which is when all parents that request transportation to out-of-district schools have to put in their deadline. We did have an increase in parents that are looking to go to Chapel Field, I believe. It does look like we're going to have to add a third bus run, so we made an adjustment here to account for that. Additional propositions that will be up for the board to consider. So Proposition 2 would be a renovation and improvement of school district facilities. It's zero tax impact capital project. Due to the utilization of capital reserve funds, we've had some presentations on this. This, as you know, would be the pool filtration system, the pool heater system, as well as the regrout pool deck. They would replace the slate roof at Montgomery Elementary School and would also replace exterior doors around the district, including doors at Walden Elementary School. And it's kind of funny, some of the things that have come up while we've been at Walden for the tours is there's been some kind of pointed questions where one person in particular said, you know, I blame the board, I blame administration for ignoring the Walden building for so long. And that is partly true. Walden Elementary has been ignored, but a lot of our facilities across the district have been ignored. Like, for example, our capital project last year, we've taken a huge step addressing $40+ million worth of work for, a tennis court that is crappy and almost unplayable. We have original boilers at East Colden from 1969. And, we still have, like, as we talked about the 5-year plan, you need to stay on top of your building maintenance and making sure you're addressing the windows and the roofs and your doors, the general maintenance as you're going through, so you are then able to focus on modernizing those instructional spaces. So I would call this, based on what we did last year, a small scale capital project, and it's nothing flashy, it's just basic maintenance work. Credit to you guys on the board for acknowledging that we need to do these, and anybody. As to my opinion on capital projects, I absolutely love seeing improvements done and the work coming together, but Attorney Yaki over here will tell you they're an absolute bear to manage, so you can understand why districts don't always do this. She's laughing here, they're good laugh. They're just, they're absolutely necessary, we cannot ignore them, so. A small zero tax impact capital project. And of course, we will have whatever the direction is for Walden coming down the pipe hopefully next year. Board of Education candidates, there are 2 seats open for election this year. 2 seats are for a 3-year term commencing July 1st, 2024 and expiring June 30th, 2027. Budget vote, Tuesday, May 21st at the high school as usual, 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. And what happens if it's not approved? The board can put the budget before the voters one additional time in June, or resolve to adopt a contingency budget. If you have any questions, we always ask you to please reach out versus researching your information on Facebook. We will definitely get you the answers. And obviously our next meeting is on May 13th, which is the budget hearing. So with that, I'll take any questions that you may have.
Questions? Question? No.